If there's a specific easement, it's whatever that easement says. If it's prescriptive, it's whatever the existing use is. So 46.
Jason, what's the easement?
Our prescriptive easement, what we like trim trees to through the prescriptive easement is in that 50-foot range. So
Currently up Ward Lane is a 50-foot easement.
yeah, that would be our prescriptive easement. That's just what we would go with.
Yeah, Jason, I have a few comments on easements that might inform a lot of people.
I'm not in charge of this meeting. This is the mayor's meeting, so.
I'd still like to repeat my question to everybody here. I don't have any land that's going to be purchased, so I don't care about the easement. What I care about is the total cost and how that's going to affect my utility bill. That's really all I care about. The details that you have to assemble eventually end up with that cost. And until you can give us a pretty close range on that, I don't think you go forward.
Well, and I think that what's happening is we're getting pieces to put that together. Like the staff we can't get all those numbers together until we know where the line's going to be, and they can't until the board says, okay, we want an overground line, and here's where we want it. We can't get that close of numbers. So they're getting the best estimates we can. That's why they're talking about a level 3 estimate, because you don't want to pay for us to get all these estimates when it's premature or we don't have permits. So we're going one step at a time and trying to get all the information and make the decisions as we can go. I just think that's kind of where we are. That's why we're not done. Like, we're just here to say, here's what we found out, here's what we know. We're not here to tell you, we're done, here's the cost, and that's where we're going. We're just saying, here's where we are today. We're still looking, as Jason mentioned, we're still looking at the routes. We're still finding out what's happening with the bypass route. We've got a lot of moving pieces going on, and we're still moving forward trying to figure out, with this end in point, because you think people are mad now, people are really going to be mad if our power goes out. So we're trying to say, we got to get this done before that time in 2022, counting backwards. We're getting information to say, here's where we got to move. So we're trying to move forward while working out some of these details and getting more information and getting more input, which is why we're here tonight. Yeah.
Would you consider just burying like segment 8 or one of the other segments go through the neighborhood? This gentleman's concerned about his power cost, and I am too, but I'm concerned about 138 tower within 100 feet of my house. And so our neighborhood is really concerned about
Where's
segment
your neighborhood?
8. Ward Lane. Ward Lane.
Ward Lane, yeah. No, every neighborhood's concerned about it.
Yeah, and exactly. And the $5 million extra cost, I think that's going to impact our power. But what will also impact is, if you build the big power lines through there, there will be litigation. And those costs will be a lot higher than $6 million.
Sir, what is your major concern about the power lines?
Well, first of all, my property values will decrease rapidly.
Do you have any other concerns?
Yeah, there's health concerns about people that live right below it. Plus, I won't be able to sell my house. Our neighborhood people won't be able to sell their houses, and the people that own lots aren't going to build houses.
They'll have to take down every tree on Word Lane. They'll have to clear them all out.
50-foot right away you have to trim too, so whatever vegetation you have out there.
Yeah, all vegetation left on.
So we just voted on a bond for open space, and so we're going to have all this beautiful open space, and we're going to build these huge power lines through them.
That's what it was for.
The visual pollution.
Are there any other questions?
Yes. How many poles? This project goes through. How many towers are you talking about?
How many poles? Pole for pole. However many poles are there, I'm not section.
Are to be replaced by big structures.
And these are 150 feet high, right?
Wait, hold on. You're asking how many poles there will be on the entire project, or just in a certain section? Or
The whole thing, 7 down. How many of those towers are going to be cutting through fields and neighborhoods?
Anywhere we're following the south 46 kV line, so if there's a pole in your neighborhood, you can kind of just look and count and see how many poles there are. Somebody said 150-foot poles. They're not 150-foot poles.
What are they?
How high are they going to be?
Well, the board's still working through that. If we do everything the way that it's initially proposed by staff, we're talking 80-foot high, and they would be wood for the most part, except for where we make a corner.
How tall are they now? Like going through these neighborhoods, like?
They range between 65 and 55 feet.
Okay, so, and they'd be increasing to 80?
They would be increasing to 80 if we go wood, yes.
And what, and if you don't go wood, what would they be?
If we go steel, then we can start to decrease the heights a little bit more.
How about the width of them?
The width is very, on a steel pole, would be very similar to what you see on 40. The corner poles are huge, yeah.
Do you plan to change, like if there are existing poles, like in a neighborhood, do you plan to move them at all over from where they currently are?
We would be working with property owners, and if there's a way to like slide them to a, there is some ranges that we could like play with, moving them away from a driveway or a window or something like that.
But what if you don't want them moved onto your property? So if they're already in a current location, going down a line, and you don't want it moved to some other location, I mean, how much control do property owners have about that?
Well, I think we work with the property owners on the placement of the pole the best we can.
So are you planning to shift some of the lines that currently exist?
Planning to shift.
Like if there's a line already going someplace, can you count on the fact that it's going to stay there, or are you planning to move some of them somewhat, like 20 feet or?
No, it would be within the line that's currently there on our South 46 kV line. So
in some places that line shifts, like it's on one side of the road and it goes to another side of the road. So yeah. Is that going to change, or it's going to stay like that?
It would stay like that unless through the process it looks like it's advantageous to straighten it out and remove a corner section or something.
Well, that's concerning. I mean, that's a big caveat. I mean, I don't feel like I know where this impacts my property, so I don't feel comfortable with that response. And and I would like, and I do think, I agree with the other gentleman who brought up about having market values done. I mean, I don't want the power line being moved so that it's on my property. It's not currently on my property, and I don't want it on my property.
Well, we wouldn't move it onto your property unless, something forced us to absolutely have to. If it's currently off your property and in like the public right-of-way or something, then we would stay within the public right-of-way.
Concerning the Northfield transmission line off of 40, is that all concurrent with the bypass road? So if the bypass road does not go through there, would the power poles and lines still go through that?
All I can tell you with the bypass road is we are working with UDOT, and we work with UDOT all the time. Where we have currently sited it, going through there, it won't be in the way of the bypass road. Now, I'm not saying it's right in the corridor of where they're going to end up building the road. It's just not in the way of the bypass road.
But is what I'm asking, if the bypass road does not go through there, are the power poles still going to go through there?
The power poles are a good 10 years ahead of the bypass road.
Okay.
That's the problem, is the bypass road, we don't know where it's going to go.
Right, that's what I was asking.
And because the county and the city have established a route that they think is the best route and purchased property, well, now we find out if that environmental study will not approve that, that's not where it's going to go. We're trying to get funding for the environmental study, and we got 2 to 5 years. Once we have an environmental study, then we know where it's going to go, even if it's not built for 5 to 10 more years. But the power line is ahead of that, and so we're going to have to make the best decision we can.
But you're saying it's going through the Northfields, that's where it's going no matter what.
Anticipation, and the plan was to make it go along that route, but we don't know if that's going to be the route because of the timing of all these moving.
So when you talk about pole for pole going from the Heber gas plant to Midway, why aren't you going pole to pole from 40 where you brought in the new lines going to the gas plant substation in Heber?
Just working with various stakeholders throughout the process. You know, it was like, that's where the bypass road is going to go one day, and so let's make a turn there and not bring it right through the heart of Heber City.
But it's already going, you already got the easements and stuff going through what you call the heart of Heber City, already going through there though, is that correct?
Yeah, our current 46 kV line runs down 2nd West until it hits about, I don't know, I think it's like 400 North, and then it hits an alley line and comes out behind the bowling alley and crosses 40. Yeah.
So a question, could you go back to that map that shows the transmission lines from, you know, in the valley, the first map you showed? You made the statement that Rocky Mountain Power had already determined before your agreement to run a new line to the Midway Station. Is that the way I understood that?
No, it's just in their future planning. It was in their future planning back in 2012.
Okay. In their future plans, what was the route they were going to get to the Midway substation?
I don't know that had been determined as of yet, but I'll let that.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there was no set route, and that's why you actually see there's two lines. There's a key on this sheet that was cut off to make it visible, but those purple lines, the blue lines are existing lines that were subject to upgrade, and then the purple lines were planned future lines that are needed, but the exact siting wasn't known at the time, other than we just needed to make a loop for reliable feed.
So what's the blue line on the left there?
From Midway to the south, it's the line that Jason referred to earlier, the Hale-Walsburg to Midway, and then from north, it goes to Judge, and then Park City, and then over to Silver Creek, and then from Silver Creek, the blue line that comes down right below the reservoir, that Silver Creek feeds down there.
So above ground transmission lines, you're gonna go right through Deer Valley to Park City.
Oh, those are there. That's there already.
And is that 138 or is it 46?
The one that goes to Judge and then to Park City,
The blue line straight north of the Midway.
It's 46.
Okay, so has that been looked at as an alternative?
Yeah, well, it is one of the future planned for upgrade lines.
Well, you're trying to get to the Midway station rather than go through all through the Heber and Midway.
Yeah, that section of line's nearly 4 times as long to go from Silver Creek all the way over to Midway.
So, cheapest and fastest.
Well, you have to get to that line from somewhere. I mean, that line comes down there now. Why can't you send a 138 down that corridor?
It's framed at 46 kV. And is this in the scope of? I mean, I don't know how far.
So I guess the question, and I think I know where he's going. Can you go from Jordanelle or Silver Creek or whatever and go to Judge instead of coming down into Heber or down into Midway, like up over those mountains, and then connect to that Judge and make your loop without coming into our valley? Is that kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're asking if it's theoretically possible, like it's a much longer route, it's much more expensive to go that way, and it doesn't.
So?
No, it doesn't. No, it's a 46 kV line from Silver Creek substation. So you have to go from Silver Creek, which is at Quinn's Junction, all the way through, up and over, and then back down. So instead of building 5 miles of line between, or 7 miles of total line between Jordanelle substation and Midway, which also provides a point of delivery for Heber Light and Power. You're talking about, and I don't know the exact distance, 20-something miles. It's much longer, and it doesn't do the things that we.
No, but you're talking about from Silver Creek.
Because that's where the 46 kV line starts, is at Silver Creek substation.
No, so you're really talking from Silver Creek to Midway, not Jordanelle to Midway.
No, Silver Creek to Jordanelle is already built 138. Jordanelle's a 138 kV substation.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, Heber Light and Power would still be rebuilding our 46 kV line to 138 specs. And we are the ones that requested the point of delivery substation, so. We still have to get their line to our point of delivery substation.
Yeah, can I just make a couple of comments? I think it'll answer some questions that people had on easement.
Yeah, I had some comments on easements, and there were questions here that may use the microphone. Okay. Currently, Heber Light and Power has prescriptive easements on the 46 kV line. They're 10 feet from pole to on each side, so 20 feet. But when you up the height of the pole and the voltage, they need a much greater easement, which is 60 feet, is somewhere I've heard that impedance. 30 feet from pole out. Now, I think we'd probably agree that over the years, Heber Light and Power, as an interlocal, has been a fairly good neighbor with the power lines. They're quaint, we all have them, and there needs to be trimming here and there, but it's not drastic. With the higher poles and the higher voltage and the greater easements, and they will be operated by Rocky Mountain Power, is that correct? Rocky Mountain Power is under FERC and not an interlocal. And their requirements and the way they maintain and take care of things is much different. I don't believe there can be your little shed, that's there now is going to be gone. And does anyone here live on 650 South?
75 South Center in Midway.
Well, on 650 South, they have the line right there. If you just go out tonight and you go home and stand there, we're here, I guess no one's here. Anyway, where the poles are, just walk back 10 feet and see how far that is. And then walk back 30 feet. I did a little look on Google Earth. I mean, that's just kind of a cursory glance. But if you do that on Stringtown, Ward Lane, and 650 South, 30 feet from driving porches. And there's a lot of vegetation, beautiful trees on 650 South on those homes. I think there are 11 homes there. That's all going to be gone. I mean, there's no way that's going to be there. So the easements are a big thing. And I represent, or am a part of Volt. And we've met with different people, but we are in the process of hiring an easement value consulting firm to give the true easement costs and future destructive value impacts for land use. It might just be a field today, but it could be a subdivision 10 years or 20 years from now. Who knows? Once we die, our kids, they sell everything. But it isn't just open farmland or just land that has little value. It's, in the future, it could have great value. But we will be doing an evaluation with the firm involved with that. And we're also looking at hiring an engineering firm to get a little more specific costs on burying the lines in certain parts of not the whole thing. And there are, I think, many landowners who would give a free easement or nearly free if it were buried. If it's not buried, it could be really expensive, and it should be. So the one question I had for Rocky Mountain Power and Heber Light and Power, are you prepared to condemn and seize the land when you find it too expensive?
We have to, I mean, we have an obligation to our ratepayers, so we pay fair market value. I mean, if it goes into a condemnation claim, that's just where we're at. We just, we go through all the steps, and we pay fair market value. We owe that to all of our ratepayers throughout any of our processes. Is just make sure we're paying fair market value.
So you keep talking about the ratepayers. How much is somebody's power bill going to go up if we bury the lines versus going overhead? I assume we're looking at a price increase either way, but how much are we looking at having our power bills go up?
like I say, you know, it's hard to do a hard rate study on plus or minus 30% estimates, which is where we're at. You know, you want to hold my feet to the fire. I'm going to like say rates are going to go up, absolutely. You know, this is a big generational type project for Heber Light and Power. Project like this hasn't been done for at least a generation. That Midway switch rack was built in the 1970s. So, you know, this is this generation's big utility project. And so rates will go up. But, you know, based on just level 3 estimates, we're not gonna like sanction a rate study and pay a whole lot of money for a rate study just so that, you know, we can throw it away and give you an estimated cost of what it's going to be on your average power bill. I will say that, you know, this is a big project. We're looking to finance it over 30 years, a good portion of it. We are gathering impact fees as fast as we can, and we're looking at well, we're going to do an impact fee study this year and hopefully change what the impact fee rates should be with the knowledge that we have now, which should help mitigate some of the ratepayer costs. But yeah, there's going to be rate increases with this project.
At one point, we had talked about these numbers when we first got the numbers, and it seemed like we had taken kind of a really rough estimate of the total cost of burying minus the cost that Rocky Mountain Power would pay minus some possible impact fees. And this is so rough, and it was like $30 per average household for 30 years. Like, it was a big number, and that was just for the cost of burying. It wasn't the other, you know, the substation. So, I mean, they're big numbers, but it's really rough, and because all the decisions haven't been made, it was just that kind of a number.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't account for the impact of the right-of-way. It doesn't account for that.
No, it doesn't. So that sounds like a big number for only to bury lines, right? Without easements, without substations, without anything. That was just a number. But it's totally rough, yeah.
I just had a question or a thought. Who controls the easements? Because right now, Heber Light and Power, where the existing lines are, you have Heber Light and Power owns as an interlocal, they own the prescriptive easement where those current lines are. So if you allow Rocky Mountain Power to get on piggyback or get on those lines, does now Rocky Mountain Power own the easements? Do they take over the easements and Heber Light and Power, that interlocal that I liked is now gone and now Rocky Mountain Power?
No, we would both be owners of the easement on this particular line. So it would be shared, just like the pole and, you know, and everything else is shared. It's just that Rocky Mountain Power would own and operate the power line on their side of the pole, and the pole itself would become Rocky Mountain Power's. Our 46 kV conductors on the other side of the pole would remain Heber Light and Power's conductors, and then the easement underneath all of it would remain both of ours. So we could both go in and work on our particular wires.
So the value of an interlocal, I like how Heber Light and Power can keep that control, and that's just was a concern. If you have Rocky Mountain Power, this large entity, we, as interlocal company, lose that control that you invite that in. So that easement.
Can I follow up on Lori's question? I think, like, in real terms, if Rocky Mountain Power decided that it needed more power out of those poles, could they come in then and build wider specs on top because they own that part of the pole to whatever width or power grid that they needed because they are now owners of the pole? Is that a yes, or is that?
You know, we're talking way down the road. I think that we're building an infrastructure that is generational, meaning this generation is gonna, this project will serve the needs for a long time into the future as far as transmission goes. Down the road, anybody know, I can't answer 40 years out, 50 years out. Clearly, by us being co-owners of this whole project, you know, Heber Light and Power is always going to have a lot of say. It's our service territory. We've always worked well with them on these types of issues. But at the end of the day, this is a load-serving line, meaning it goes and it feeds load at substations for people to use at their homes and businesses. This is not a major type line that comes out of the Hunter power plant where we have 5 megawatts of energy and gets transmitted throughout the state. This is ultimately a load-serving line for Heber Light and Power and Rocky Mountain Power.
So one more question, I've been trying to be quiet. Rocky Mountain Power, why do you want this line? What are all the advantages to you? And this question just brought it up. Why do you want this line? What are the advantages to you? I know some of them are to us, but what does Rocky Mountain Power get out of it?
So, and Jason talked about this briefly in his presentation. I think the impetus on the immediate need on the loop, so looping the Jordanelle substation with the Midway substation, it serves one of our transmission customers, Heber Light and Power, so that's one reason we need to continue to serve our customers, including Heber Light and Power, who then serves this entire area. Also, Rocky Mountain Power serves Wasatch County customers out of Wallsburg substation, as well as Jordanelle substation. And both of those lines, like Jordanelle substation, for example, if there were an outage between Silver Creek and Jordanelle, we lose all of our customer load on that line. What this project does for us is that it allows us to be able to feed either direction. We could feed, say, Jordanelle substation from Utah County, or we could feed Wallsburg and all of Heber Light Power's load from Silver Creek substation up there near Quinns Junction. So from a immediate benefit perspective, there's a lot of redundancy and reliability benefits to this project.
Back to that map that you had at your current lines and then your kind of your proposed lines, where that map is of Utah, wherever it was. Why can't you go from Jordanelle to Judge? Is it Judge the ones that's just above Midway?
Judges.
See that? No. See the purple line that comes out and goes off to my left? That you already have kind of semi-drawn in there. That cuts across 40, comes down to a brownish line.
Where's Judge?
I'm assuming it's the one just north of Midway, right?
It's not.
Which one is that? Which one is the one that's just north of, you got the Midway substation, then the next blue one right up the line?
I believe that's Judge.
Okay, so what about going from Jordanelle, upgrading that line down to Judge?
Yeah.
And then down.
And we were talking about this briefly before. The line from Silver Creek that goes up through Park City, over Deer Creek, and then down through Judge to Midway, that's a 46 kV.
No, I'm talking about your proposed line.
Okay.
Why can't you do that one? That one looks like if it was from there to Heber was 7 miles. That over those two blue squares don't look like but 5 miles.
So yeah.